Hello.
So welcome. We are here for quite a ride. We did today in the morning a little warm-up, a little interview for TV with you, and that was already a ride. So we can go on those topics here and elaborate on that. But I was thinking about you in Tallinn 7 years ago, your exhibit.
Yes, so
The question is that your middle name seems to be Scandal. The Tallinn city government decided that the AdWords for your show, Princess Di and Donald Trump, or their lookalikes, are not fit for advertising in cityscape, and they were taken down.
Yes, so I was greeted with a wonderful show at Photographic. And by the way, thank you very much indeed for coming. So it's very lovely to see you all. Welcome. So I was greeted by Photographic, and then absolutely all my photographs were ripped down from the streets of Tallinn, and they were censored and banned by, I don't know whether it was the city or whether it was the government. Anyway,
the city, yes.
The city, yeah. It's always the city, although the government makes the decision. So, so all my photographs were not shown, after all, in Tallinn. So
on the streets, but they were shown here.
Yeah.
But this is not the first time you had scandals.
No, I mean, I'm always in trouble, and it's always, a risk whether I get put in jail, which I haven't been quite yet, thank goodness. But I've certainly been in handcuffs, and I've been frisked over the top of my car outside Tony Blair's house in London. And I've got into terrible trouble. Luckily, I'm still here, but I'm not going to work in the United States of America now because I'm worried about ICE. I have my filthy Donald Trump sculpture, hyper-realistic sculpture there, and I'm going to fly it all the way back to London, sadly, because I'm worried that if I do take it out as a protest, I'll get shot by ICE. It's a very real fear.
But let's talk, we'll come back to Donald Trump. He's been in your photos quite prominently. But let's talk about the photos. We look at them and they look real, and they're not real. We know that. So in our mind, we decide that they are real. So tell us a little bit. You will show your process in detail in a few minutes, but tell us, what's the aim?
Well, the aim really is to raise questions about how we cannot tell what's real or fake anymore. And I was wondering that 30 years ago. And so now, with the birth of AI and all of that, we're in the most extraordinary, situation. And it's the same question. How can we tell what's real or fake? Nothing's changed.
How can we tell?
Well, you can't. I mean, it's extremely difficult to tell what's real or fake, and AI is only going to get better. But my original premise was the fact that that photography is a slimy, deceitful medium that cannot be trusted, and it's highly seductive. Like, it seduces you in to believe there's something real in a photograph, and it may not be the truth. You think it's the truth because it's a recorded documentary thing of somebody or something, but it may not be the truth. And that was my original premise, and I was proving the camera lies by, when you look at my photographs, you think it's real, but of course it's not. These are lookalikes, people who look like famous people. And so, it's a most extraordinary situation that we're in, and we're dominated and bombarded by imagery. We'll never get away from the fact that all our information is through imagery. A picture speaks 1,000 words. It's extremely fast read, and we'll never know what's true or fake anymore. And that's where, we were talking earlier about how Donald Trump is absolutely having a heyday with this. Because, he loves the fact you can't tell what's real or fake. He looks fake himself. He looks like a ball of artifice. And he's constantly creating artifice to confuse you as to what might be real and what's his real mind and what's his mad mind.
We'll come back to Trump in a second, but you had a great example this morning. We all know famous photography photos from the past. We have this image of Napalm Girl in front of our eyes. I think a lot of people know this image. And you said that this is also doctored, this is not real. Somewhat it's real, yes, but how we perceive it, it's not real.
Well, I mean, you look at the picture of the Napalm Girl, she's on fire. She looks like she's going to die at any second. But of course, that's completely not the case. She survived, for many years after that. It was a burst of flames.
But at this moment, that was the real truth.
Well, no. Because at that moment, there were a crowd of photographers taking a photograph, and there's this one spectacular photograph, but he cropped out the fact that everyone's running in with blankets. So all you get is this little girl in flames. So when you look at the little girl in flames, you clearly think she's about to die. But if you saw the wider picture, the cropped wider picture, you would see people running in with blankets just about to save her. So just by a simple crop, newspaper editor, or however, Reuters or whoever was circulating the photograph, it changed the whole meaning of the photograph.
But let's come back to Trump now. Interestingly, I just read yesterday, Washington Post published that in the United States, 24% of people, it's a quarter of Americans, don't believe that those latest assassination attempt was real, and the summer one also, and about 33% of Americans doubt that it might be real but not. So only 45% believe that this is all true. So that brings us a question. He has created this theater that people see news that he is assassinated and don't believe. They think that this is part of this soap opera reality show that he has created. So where are we now?
Well, there you go.
Do you believe that this was real in the Washington Hilton?
No, I don't. But the point is that
somebody was captured. Somebody was arrested.
Yes, that's the bit I'm wondering. How much did he get paid? So the thing is that it's fantastic. Donald Trump is a master of the media. He's a master of, publicity. So creating assassination attempt, other than a war, is probably the most wonderful publicity stunt. So, it's fantastic. Donald Trump wasn't even in that third assassination attempt. Donald Trump wasn't even removed from his seat till well after J.D. Vance had been removed. He could have easily been shot if someone was trying to shoot him properly. I mean, he's quite hard to miss. He's enormous. He's a fantastic colour. You would have thought...
But they always miss him.
They always miss him. I mean, the best assassination attempt was the guy on top of the roof. And he's how could the guy have got on top of the roof 100 meters away? The police knew he was there because the audience were telling them that somebody's on the roof, and he wasn't removed. I mean, that's extraordinary. And the person who was shot, there was no outcry. I mean, if somebody got shot beside us now, God forbid, we'd be videoing it probably, which is also awful. Nobody took a video. Nobody was interviewed afterwards. It just doesn't make sense.
Maybe it's just conspiracy theories.
But it just, I'm sure that, in reality, there would be an absolute hoo-ha. There would be an absolute noise if somebody got shot instead of Donald Trump. But
I've been discussing this with my colleagues and friends in New York and London, and your photo of Donald Trump raping Miss Mexico in the White House, that's the famous photo.
Yeah.
And you created the statue of that. And I think Donald Trump himself, some deep down, is proud that this photo exists. He's shown as alpha male.
Well, that's the problem. You know, it's very, very difficult to protest against Donald Trump because anything that you do, he uses as publicity for himself. You know, and he litigates and he sues people, and that's just more publicity. So, you know, it's very, very difficult.
Tell this story that when you went to the Trump Tower in New York on 56th Street with this statue, they said, remove it, but you can take it across the street because we kind of like it.
That's right.
Tell us, this is striking.
Yes, the police, because I had this, I'll show you pictures of it later. I had this hyper-realistic sculpture, which is really a three-dimensional photograph. It's very, very realistic. It looks very real. Anyway, I took it off a truck and ran it down the street with some mischievous students, the only people who'd helped me do it. And then we dumped it outside Trump Tower, literally, and sort of ran in amongst the crowds. Crowds were forming everywhere, you know, wanting selfies with it. Then the police just looked at it outside Donald Trump's door for about 10 minutes, and then they didn't know what to do. So, because they couldn't be seen picking it up and taking it away, because it would have looked like complete prats. So they kicked it over and they removed the woman section of the sculpture and started to drag it down the street. But then they couldn't fit it in their white van because the legs of the woman were like this. So one leg was out of the window in the front of, and the other, anyway, it just didn't work. I was in handcuffs at this point. So they then said, well, we want to do a deal. And I was very worried because they wanted to take me somewhere. And I thought, well, I'm not going with them. So there was a bit of a, you know, push me, pull you on the street. And they said, just remove, we'll take the handcuffs off if you just take this sculpture off. And my assistant said, well, can we put it on the other side of the road, small road between Trump Tower entrance and the other side? And they said, yeah, that's fine. Just get it away from Donald Trump's door. So they, one, wanted to save their jobs. And secondly, they weren't going to help Donald Trump. And probably thirdly, they knew it would actually probably help Donald Trump to have such an outrageous sculpture on his doorstep.
These are very interesting stories, but you have a presentation for us.
Oh, wow.
To show how you do this. So let's just go through that, and then afterwards we can continue, and then questions from audience.
Yes, well, I hope it doesn't go on to too long. I'm going to...
well, it's so interesting topic, so I'll just go down to see it better.
I might have to stand up. Oh, gosh, right. So basically, I'll just run through some photographs. Oh, but I have many lookalikes because I don't do a lot of the work myself, and I need many, so that if I get handcuffed or something, I've got another one. So this is Donald Trump with Miss Mexico. And here he is with Putin having a conversation about world domination. I shot this in 2016, well before there was, you know, public knowledge about his great friendship with Putin. And Putin paid £8 or £9 million to Donald Trump when he was going bankrupt in Atlanta for his casino. So they're great mates, by the way, and that isn't publicized too much. Here is a little video, which does have music somewhere, of Putin, you know, with his missiles, which we're all not too happy about. And our queen, Camilla here, who's been done very well, I think, in America, and Kate and Meghan having, you know, lots of fights inside Buckingham Palace. There's a bit, should be audio on here too. Yes, it was great fun to shoot that, by the way. And Prince William and how he feels about his squitty brother. And Camilla waiting around, you know, for the next party. And what Harry and Meghan get up to in California. And this is the real Elton John. So I often mix the real celebrity with the fake celebrity, so you can't really tell what's real or fake, believe it or not. And so that's, interesting. And I went to his house in Vegas, and he bought all my photographs. This isn't real, by the way. He bought all my photographs except for this one, which I gave to him as a present. I then took the fake king and queen to Buckingham Palace. I'll show you a short video. I got this horse and carriage with these prancy horses with plumes. I think they looked magnificent. Had these footmen, they were funeral directors, and dressed them up in outfits. Got a bunch of friends to come on as fake paparazzi on mopeds, and they opened the barriers to Buckingham Palace. They'd spent 150 million on security, and yet they opened the barriers, let me in with my motley crew. I mean, I can't believe it. And all the crowds turned around, instead of looking at the real King Charles, it was a garden party, they were looking at my fake King Charles. And the police didn't know what to do. And then they let us into Buckingham Palace and into the garden party. And then they realised that they'd made some frightful mistake. And then they escorted us out. The lookalike became furious, saying that I'd set him up. I didn't know this was going to happen. I thought we were just going for a quick photograph outside Buckingham Palace. But he started, and so the crowds were going, oh, I didn't realise King Charles had a kind of temper and was so bad-tempered. And basically I was sort of dragged away. The police were completely useless. I mean, really, this is the King and Queen. We're at the King and Queen's hat. And then they escort us out. And clearly the police could not tell who was real and who was fake here. So it's just outrageous, really. The whole thing is completely confused. And it happened by accident. And then, how I started quickly, it was really at the time of Princess Diana died. The country came to a standstill. I couldn't understand how Princess Diana had got into everyone's psyche, including mine. So I quite simply got some pictures of Princess Diana by Mario Testino and started to shoot at them, trying to erase the image of Princess Diana from my mind, which, of course, I just simply couldn't do. So that was the beginning of it. Then I thought, well, I'll dress... Well, actually, I wasn't allowed to shoot at Mario Testino's pictures. This was the start of the trouble, because I was in breach of his copyright. So I was nearly expelled from the Royal College of Art in London because of that. And then I've lost... Oh, yeah, I think it's my fault here. I'm doing something. Yeah, I was dressing up myself as Diana, which wasn't really working. I just looked like a mass murderer called Myra Hindley, which is very unfortunate. And so I got lookalikes and models of Diana, Dodie, and their mixed-race child, and made them look like they're supposed to. This guy, Dodie, was 20 stone. He was completely bald, so I had to paint his hair in. I had to paint out his fat jowl, put him in a black jumper against black, so you couldn't see he was so enormous. And he's the only person who'd come and do it. That's the other thing, hard to find. I went on to make a film about Diana, which was banned by Tony Blair. He said I was a blot on his cool Britannia. And then I went on to make other imagery, shooting it grainy as if it's paparazzi, trying to replace the real with secret moments, private moments, and trying to break taboos. You can't imagine the Queen on the loo, but hey, here she is, and doing photographs of her favourite things. Of course she watches her horse's mate. This is the real Prince Philip, because he was patron of my college, so he'd be round at my college all the time looking at one of my photographs. And there was masses of press. They'd managed to get into the Royal College and write whole pages about me, about how tasteless I was, an awful artist, and, then try to write, some vaguely intellectual, and then headlines like this, sensationalist headlines. Then I realized that paying cartoonists to write and draw pictures and reappropriating my imagery to make commercial gain for the newspapers. And I thought, well, that's exactly what my work is about. And then the bad news story really came to an end, and they started to put my images on the front cover of newspapers. And this one is really shocking, because it's bin Laden in a harem, which is far more shocking than Princess Diana. And so they gave me columns and all sorts of front covers. Vanity Fair spent hundreds of thousands of pounds, which I'm very pleased they did. The Daily Mail wrote fake stories around my imagery. There's a real story around my fake imagery. And this is a front cover of the Daily Mail. And Tony Blair came up to me and he asked me how I managed to get into William and Kate's bathroom. I think he was very drunk, actually. A front cover of the New Yorker and the Telegraph and Atlantic magazine. In fact, Atlantic magazine the other day said, oh, we would never do any kind of fake stories on the front cover. Well, look, they did. They did this fake cover, this fake story a few years back. So they've all forgotten what they've done. Front covers, endless press. I lost a wig to do with Donald Trump, which went viral. And, all about celebrity. So reappropriating my imagery. And here's our terrible Prime Minister. In fact, he may not be our Prime Minister right now, but the press make, terrible jokes about him. They think Colin Firth looks like our Prime Minister. And it's very difficult to find the lookalikes. So this is what I do. I go up to people on the street. I think there's sound on here. I think they're quite good, actually, the Kim Jong-uns, actually. Yeah. That's Putin. He lives nearby here, actually. Yes, a bunch of Harrys. None of them look like Harry, but I've used them all. So they do look like Harry by the time I finish them. And I use this guy. Unbelievable, isn't it? And these are the Megans. And the middle one started a cat fight because she wanted the job rather than the girl on the left, because they all want this. There's sound on here. Because they all want this accolade. This is, whoops, we lost her. There's a Meghan in there somewhere. They get this kind of accolade on the streets. And, Obama. So I can make the lookalike, who doesn't really look like Obama, look like Obama. That went on the front cover. And Brad Pitt, he's not bad, but that's rare. And can you tell which one's real? Which one's fake? Well, there's a real one in there and a fake one. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, because the most important thing about Kim is the bottom bit. And making this bottom is a nightmare, because I have to build all these garments, the boobs and the bottom. That's me, yeah, with that. I mean, it's quite something. That's not a floating device. That really is. Yeah, and Donald Trump, trying to find a Donald Trump was very difficult. This guy in the middle with the beard wanted £5,000, wasn't even going to shave his beard off. I went through about 400 of these guys. None of them looked like Donald Trump. I think this guy was just coming along for a laugh. And then they all took their clothes off. And so I found this guy. I mean, he doesn't, I have sound on here. I don't think he looks anything like Donald Trump. But believe it or not, he's a spitting image of Donald Trump now. So there he is on the left. I put the wig in, made him the right shade of orange. That wig's a nightmare. And I think he looks like Donald Trump. So it's extraordinary, bad hair day. I went through about 20 or 30 hairstylists, and none of them could do the wig. So I ended up doing it myself. Hair combed over to the left, combed over to the right, trying to get that flip working. The whole thing was a nightmare. Oh, well, hang on a second. You can see what a nightmare it is. That's a video, but never mind. And doing scenes in the Oval Office, which was, Donald Trump owned Miss Universe and Trump models. So basically, I was making scenes about that. And I made these with Vanity Fair. They didn't publish any of them because they were always a little scared what might happen, as so many people are. And this is Miss Mexico. Yeah, so he's very happy. I wonder if the images can go a bit lighter a bit, because they look a bit dark from here. And here he is playing golf in his Oval Office, which I'm sure he's done. This is the golden shower that's so famously told about by Putin and his gang. I'm sure it's true. That's definitely not fake news. And here he is with a party, because Donald Trump always has parties with girls only. This is him with Epstein, behaving badly. And his wife, Melania, didn't know Epstein, she said. But I have proof here that there she is. And there's Donald Trump busy eating. Apparently, when he has a girlfriend, he doesn't rush them back to his hotel to behave badly. He just wants to eat McDonald's and watch television. I hear. There he is. He just picks and she was Stormy Daniels was a hired sex worker who sponsored the 18th hole. And at that event, while he was doing the 18th hole, she came up to him and said, "Come and see the 19th hole." And that's how it all happened. So it was a complete setup. So basically, here he is tearing up the Constitution and, I was going to say in bed with his friends in the jacuzzi. And his father was a member of the KKK. So Donald Trump was brought up with the KKK in that environment. And this is how I made it. After a long day's shoot, I had a bunch of sheets and things I pinned together, and some wood from a local supermarket and some lighter fluid. I was terrified. I think there's music on this. And I thought I was going to get beaten up at any minute. And actually, I didn't realize how terrifying we must have looked. That went on the front cover of The Guardian because Donald Trump was threatening to sue me at the time. And then I thought, well, I'll take the Donald Trump lookalike to Trump Tower. And the police were furious and got everyone on the pavement. There were swarms of people, as you can see, and girls with placards, "Don't snatch my pussy." And because, he was saying he liked to grab pussy, if you remember that. This is what happened outside Trump Tower. So I've been there frequently. This is with the lookalike. So this is 57th Street. Absolutely shut down. Shut down. And the police had given us a blue-lit, sirened escort to get to this point, just to get rid of us. Unbelievable. These are all Democrats that wanted a selfie. And it's kind of nerve-wracking, you know, I'm in the middle of that. I'm on a motorbike as my getaway vehicle. And here's the sculpture I was talking about on the back of my van. It wasn't really having much traction. So I took it off with my mischievous students and ran it along the pavement, literally dumped it outside Trump Tower. And people were going crazy. That woman was trying to jump on top of it. And then they're surrounded by the police. And then they took it away. They took away the girl. And I was so upset because I could see that they're damaging the sculpture. You know, we'll see it, they just drag it. Like, you see this policeman, he's just knocked it over. He wasn't going to pick it up. It was just very, very, very sad. And wrecked my protest just behind. That big guy was frightening. So they then tried to get it into the van. I couldn't. And so they said, take it over the other side. We could take it over the other side of 57th. So here we are, dragging it across over the wall, running it across the street. And I set it up here. I'm trying to get the hair back into order. You know, because it's a bit of a tussle. This sculpture cost £100,000 to make. So it's not a cheap thing. It's a beautifully made sculpture, handcrafted by myself. And so it's a very, very valuable item, you know, obviously with a history now. And here am I making it. And here's my next sculpture. This is Elon Musk. In fact, that also applies to Donald Trump, I think. And here am I, always in trouble. Well, I don't know what that noise is. More screaming. Yeah, always in trouble, unfortunately. Truth is dead, okay? Doesn't exist anymore. At all, ever. Anyway, thank you very much. That's a bit of my work.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have you ever been frightened?
I mean,
Maybe. Yeah.
It's kind of scary, you know, when you do a public stunt like that. Yes, and that's why I won't go back to America now with the Donald Trump sculpture, just in case I get shot. You know, they're rough. They're really rough. They forget freedom of speech. And basically, I'm always scared. But I think a good indicator of a good piece of work, if you think any of that's good, is that you are nervous. If you suffer from complacency and inertia, it means you're not doing enough. You know, it's very, very good to be anxious about things. It's a good quality.
So when this is dangerous, it is provocative, but why you do it?
Well, it's a protest, isn't it? And I never really thought my work was controversial until quite recently. No, until recently.
Interesting, okay.
Yes, I just was making the work happily and this terrible stuff was coming out. It never occurred to me that it was controversial.
So maybe this is the British humor.
Sorry?
Maybe this is the famous British humor that is in your work, that you think it's normal to poke fun.
Yeah, but in a way, I don't find it very funny at all.
Oh, really?
No, I don't.
So what is it then?
I've no idea what is just coming out, all this artwork. It's just happening. It's certainly not really very planned. You know, it just happens. And I always happen to be in the middle of some kind of trouble. I just think that people like Donald Trump, shouldn't really be getting away with being a very good PR guy as president. He's all about marketing. He's all about puff and theatre, and he shouldn't be getting away with it. He's bombing countries. He's doing all sorts of things, which is not really helpful. The whole point about politicians is they're meant to be making the world better for us. They're meant to be giving us better lives. And I think most of my life, I've seen the politicians do the opposite. And I think that is a terrible thing.
One thought what I had looking at this presentation is that the First Amendment protections work.
Sorry?
The First Amendment protections work. The freedom of speech, freedom of image.
I don't think it works.
But your work is a proof that it works.
Yes, but I haven't been in America since Donald Trump's had ICE.
Yeah, but you've been doing it for 30 years.
But there's been no president that goes around shooting people.
Yeah.
This is the first time that if you object to something that the president wants to do, he will shoot you. I mean, that is an extraordinary thing. And you ask why I'm doing this. I think I'm also stunned by our collective inertia to do nothing about anything. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted that we all sit back and we accept things and none of us try and change things, actively change things.
But you were so ahead of our times when you started doing that 30 years ago. Nobody knew about social media. So when we look at your work, I think you as a teacher who's been teaching us how to, I don't know, how to look at photos and to think, is it real or not real? So it's provocative, but at the same time, you are teaching that you have to have critical mind.
Well, I think, as all artists, artists are investigators. We're looking for authenticity. We're looking for true. We're looking for the real. And, what I could not see when Princess Diana died, and it was the time I was at the Royal College of Art, was that there was no truth. And again, it was that inertia of people wanting to read the stories about Princess Diana rather than question the stories of Princess Diana. And, nothing's changed. So I think as an artist, I sit outside the crowd. And I think when you sit outside the crowd, it allows you to see something different.
We walked through the exhibit on the second floor. It was my cameraman this morning. And he said, he thought is that you can do all those photos with AI today.
That's right, you can.
So, but the photographers still continue working.
Well, I was thinking that today, walking around this magnificent exhibition, that none of these photographs are AI. And tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think Photographiska like AI and don't show AI. Maybe use the photographs that use the use of AI, but are not AI generated. There's something wonderful about the authenticity of the real. And I like my photographs that they're lookalikes, that they really do exist. So that man is John Smith. It's just in your mind, you think it's President Trump. So your mind is totally fucked because you've got it wrong. This is a real person. You just think it's someone else. And that's the question I'm raising. You've got to think what you're in, or we've got to think what we're in, and then how do we get out of that?
So now it's time for your questions. Does anybody have a question? We have a microphone. So if you want to ask something about truth.
Where's that?
Silence. So, but looking in the future, look at the future. So where are we heading? Is the social media speeding up, AI speeding up, everything is going crazy. So how to save ourselves?
Well, we're sort of headed towards spontaneous combustion because I've no idea where everything's headed, because we certainly are never going to be able to tell what's real or fake through imagery, and we live our lives through imagery. I think we just have to assume that it's fake. Did you think all those UFO pictures were real or fake?
Fake.
I mean, it was just fantastic. You know, Orson Welles did the most wonderful hoax many years ago, must have been in the 20s, and he got on the radio then and went, "The Martians are coming." And everyone believed the Martians were coming just because it was broadcast over, you know, an official media station. People believed it. And Donald Trump's doing the same. He's a forerunner in fake news. So all the dictators are. So is Putin. I'm not sure about Xi. I'll have to, but Xi's a different kettle of fish. But, you know.
We see him tomorrow is Trump. Trump is heading there now as I speak.
Xi may, I'm sure, use, you know, fake news and disinformation. Everyone does. And, you know, tear down to the bottom of the pile, you know, on social media, everyone's creating fake imagery. So it's very, very difficult to tell what's real or fake.
So what do you think of these rumors that Putin has 5, 6, 7 lookalikes that he's using?
Well, I think it's probably very sensible, because someone's going to want to kill him soon, aren't they? And then it's over. I hear he's living in his bunker, and he operates all the Ukrainian action out of his bunker. He doesn't move around anymore. I just think about what's going to happen in the future. What's our world with AI? You know, are we all going to be sunbathing on beaches and the robots are doing all our work for us? You know, because certainly it's going to be very difficult to know what's truth. And also, once you've got the hang of lying, you can lie in text, you can lie in visuals. There's no gauge, there's no foundation of how we gauge what's real or fake anymore, or what's real anymore. We don't have that gauge.
We had this sidebar discussion before about democracy. And you said that you are not really optimistic on democracy.
Well, I just think that democracy seems not to be working, and certainly not fashionable, because people are voting. You know, all the Chinese are terribly happy with Xi, nice dictator. The Russians are happy with Putin, nice dictator. You go to America, a lot of Americans, not all, are happy with Trump.
30%.
Look at
That's the core.
Sorry?
30%, that's the core.
30%.
Trumpers who are very happy with him. So.
Well, 30%'s not that much.
But it's still a lot. So.
And how many don't vote at all?
A lot of people, the voting percentage is small. So, but 30% is a sizable. Those people think he's a god. So.
Yeah. Well, and look at the mess that Britain's in. You know, 1 minute we'll have that prime minister. No, we don't like him. We'll go for that one, get rid of him. Oh, no, sorry, we'll go for that one. That's a democracy. It's turning into chaos because you've got too many people with social media deciding based on whether they like someone or not. You know, nobody's got a chance to prove it, and, you know, too many voices.
So the culprit is the social media.
Well, the social media allow you to have a voice, doesn't it? I mean, if you think in the 50s, just going back to, you know, famous people, you know, there were only 5 famous film stars on the silver screen. Then television, the birth of the 60s, you had a few more celebrities. Then with the tabloids in the 2000s, you had double the amount of TV people. And then suddenly with social media, you've got millions of famous people. So suddenly it's all, suddenly everyone's woken up with a voice. But I'm not sure that the guidance for their voices is particularly good guidance, because it's very easy to lie through the medium of television. And you can come on with a script, look totally plausible, go off, and the world believes you. A bit like the UFOs. How many people believed those UFOs were real? Some people did.
Some people do.
Yeah. And I still in my mind see that little UFO and I think, oh, maybe it was, So it's ridiculous that nothing is trustworthy anymore. And the guidance to people on social media, which is all of us, is cheating.
Any questions? Yeah. The microphone is coming.
Hi, I'm actually very curious about the doubles or the models.
Yes.
So before you used to find them just on the streets, right?
I've always find them on the street, yeah. I use lookalike agencies.
Okay.
However, the lookalike agencies, generally I find them, style them, teach them how to walk and talk, then I hand them over to the agencies because suddenly they're a star. Like the Donald Trump lookalike is a star.
Oh, yeah.
And the women
OnlyFans, maybe?
Sorry?
Maybe he's doing OnlyFans from now on since he's so famous.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask, the people that you find, how do you let them be, or do you tell them what character they have to play and then you just observe them, or do you give the scene, or how does it happen, that you make photograph?
I find the lookalike by running after them down the street, work with a hairstylist to get the wig and the colour right and the outfit. And then when I shoot, which is quite a long process, so I'll do a sort of pre-shoot. And then I will come up with an idea, or 10, for a day's shoot. With that Donald Trump shoot in the Oval Office, I made an Oval Office in someone's house, got all those girls that were very particularly cast because they all had to be fun, and then came up with those scenes, like him with the Miss Universe, got the sashes made, got in the party scene, got all those girls in red dresses, so on and so forth. So basically everything is choreographed and storyboarded before I shoot, because the production is kind of large. Because in that shoot with the party scene, there's about 50 girls. On my crew's about 20 people. So it's kind of large. I shot something for Duran Duran, for example. My cast and crew's about 200. It's kind of hard, hard to deal with them.
Who funds this?
Duran Duran funded the Duran Duran thing. Vanity Fair funded whenever somebody, and I shouldn't say this, a commercial brand or somebody asks me to do something, I'll always ask the lookalikes to stay for an extra 5 hours, and I do my own shoot afterwards in a different location, well away from any subject matter that I've just done with the brand, obviously, not to step on their toes. But otherwise, it's very, it's very difficult to fund your artwork. I'm always looking for money. So if anyone wants to donate, it's a worthwhile cause, please do. So, it's difficult. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, because it's very difficult to find the lookalikes. It's very difficult to train non-actors who really have no idea what I'm talking about to try and make an image. It's very difficult to get normal people to do outrageous things. They don't want to. Some of them run away. So I've set a whole scene up, and then they're out the door going, F off. So it's very, it's emotionally upsetting. So it's, it's very, very difficult. I've been trying to make a film about Donald Trump, but of course nobody will distribute it on a broadcaster channel. Again, they're scared. The whole thing is very difficult.
But you have internet now. The YouTube is much more popular than BBC, I hear.
Yes, there is. And there's YouTube 60 seconds, which is going down a treat. Yeah.
Any more questions? Yes.
Yes, hi. I have a question. But what do you think, how to deliver truth to people? You have chosen...
Sorry, how do I think what?
How... Yeah. So you have chosen, if I may call it this format. What have you learned in your job and career, how to deliver this truth?
Well, I think, first of all, you've got to raise the question that it's not true. I was saying earlier that over the years, people have told me to shut up about truth.
Yes, they do. They don't want to hear the truth.
It's boring. But, it probably is boring. Because the thing about now is that the truth is in our imaginations. And our imaginations are wonderfully creative and wild. And so why should we go back to boring old truth? Who was it who said that reality is a little hard to bear? It's much better to have, So this fake world we live in is delicious. And I think that's what creates the inertia, because it's actually amusing. Even watching wartime news late night before you go to sleep is fun. So you're watching people being shot or bombed or wiped out in Gaza or whatever it is. And you think, oh, well, people have been wiped out in Gaza. I think I'll go to sleep now. Bye. No responsibility whatsoever. No accountability whatsoever. Complete inertia. There was a wonderful test that Freud did in the 60s after it must have been even earlier than the 60s, after the World War II. They realised there's a lot of hatred in people. So a PR guy decided, we'd get people off hatred collectively and get them all into consumerism, get them all buying things. And buying would distract everyone from their hatred that is inherently in everybody. And buying things will soothe people into an inertia, never to have a war again. And that buying things also included smoking. So it didn't really matter if you were killing yourself, just as long as people shut up, and were controlled. And I think that television and the media is that same form of control. And it's irresponsible, because there's been no regulation, and the presidents and the politicians are exploiting that media and for their own benefit. And no one stopped them, because no one's really twigged on it.
But yet, me as a journalist, I've been working for 40 years. My aim is to tell the truthful story. So there has to be a window for truth.
I think as we get removed, like I thought in particular, maybe not here in Estonia, but definitely in the UK and the US, that kids under 30 are busy looking at their screens all the time. So they become very silent. They don't really engage with people anymore. And I think that divorcing yourself from people, from direct engagement with people is a worry. Because I think to be truthful, you have to be able to look someone in the eye and say it and mean it. And if you can't look someone in the eye because all you want to do is look at your screen and nobody's ever going to question you, then you've got a big gap that I think will come back to haunt people later.
But still, there has to be a window of truth to get the truthful message out. Otherwise, it's impossible to live further. Or is it already closing?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You look at Trump.
Yeah.
The people are beginning to vote for Trump, and he's not truthful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, do you think the next president of the United States of America will be a man full of honesty and truthfulness? Do you think Obama was full of truthfulness?
Big questions. Just
Do you
think.
see what I mean? It's a very, very difficult thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that we're enjoying the entertainment of the media that includes the news. We're enjoying it. And while we enjoy it, we're never, ever going to look for anything else. Because the misery of reality is probably too dreadful. Was it Aristotle who said truth is too much, or too much reality is too hard to bear, or something?
So many big thoughts to think. When you go up to the exhibit, those questions are in your head. So it's interesting to watch those photos that are genuine, truthful. Not all. Your photos are that too. So, but,
mine are the most genuine.
right. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you
for
very
coming to
much
Estonia,
indeed.
taking time. It was great to talk to you.
Well, thank you very, very much indeed. Some great questions. That's really fabulous. And thank you very much all for coming and listening. And, you know.
And you kindly agreed to sign some books if somebody wants to buy a book or get the autograph. So
here we are.
Just
if you want to
come to the stage.
There's a terrible photograph in the front.
It's a great book. I mean, it's a great coffee table. Always a starter for good conversation.
Yes.
Thank you and enjoy.
Thanks.